Hi there, welcome to Word on Wednesday. It's our opportunity in the middle of the week to pause and reflect on things we looked at Gather Worship on Sunday. Now this Sunday we were in the book of Exodus. Back in our lectionary readings, we were in chapter 17 verses 1 to 7. It's where the people find themselves in this place where there is no water. They've left Egypt and they're in the desert, the wilderness. And they are camped in a place where there is no water. And we were looking at what they did, how they reacted to that. And what we find is they just kind of went for Moses with anger and accusation. You know, you brought us out here to die of thirst. So why did they do that? We were thinking about, there's what they did and there's what they could have done, might have done. Why did they react as they did? We touched on the fact that they had been brought to this new place. They've been brought out of Egypt and into a new place. You might think, well, anywhere is better than Egypt because that's a place of imprisonment and oppression. But of course, it's all they had ever known. And so it's where their reference points are. In Egypt, they knew where their next meal was coming from. But here in this place, there's a great deal of uncertainty. No one's really got a clue. And they're kind of reacting out of that as well as other things. They've been brought to this desert place. And what they need to understand is there are dynamics to the desert. There are dynamics to the desert. You see, it's an in-between place. It's an in-between place. As one commentator said, they're on the move, but they are yet to arrive. They've left Egypt, but they're yet to go into the promised land. And geographically, distance-wise, it's not very far away. But here they are stuck in the desert, in this in-between place. Surely there must be a quicker way. Why can't we just get there? It's an in-between place, and that's a tough place to be sometimes. But a tough place doesn't equal a bad place in the sense of it's not a place of God's punishment. See, the dynamics of the desert are all about an opportunity to go deeper with God, to discover more about Him and, of course, themselves. The dynamics of the desert is not a bad place. It's actually a place of opportunity. It's a tough place, but it's a place of opportunity. If only they could see it, if only they could kind of grab hold of the dynamics of the desert. Now, some of us may feel like we're in a desert place sometimes. We are, there's like an idea that God is kind of active in our life, but nothing's coming to a resolution. Everything feels up in the air. We might think, can't we just get there? How long is this going to take, Lord? There must be a quicker way. But I guess just want to encourage us really with the idea that the desert place is not a bad place. It's not God's punishment. It's actually a place of opportunity to go deeper with Him. And a bit of that comes out later on. You see, Moses knows that there's something deeper going on. The issue is we haven't got any water. But the issue is not the issue. There's something deeper. And what that means is that when the trouble hits, they respond in particular ways. It's interesting that the immediacy of need blocks out the history of God's faithfulness to them. You see, these are the people who had received this promise that they were going to be taken out of captivity in Egypt toward a land flowing with milk and honey. And nothing's flowing at the minute, not even water. And so there's an immediacy of need. And it's blocking out the history of God's faithfulness already to them. See, they were the ones who had witnessed the plagues and that the cost the Egyptians paid with the firstborn of keeping them captive. They were the ones who had witnessed the sea parting to allow them through and then rushing back to drown their pursuers. They were the ones who had received manna, this supernatural bread from heaven, and quail when they had no food. But all that kind of disappears because what we need now is water. How can that happen? How can that happen? Well, that's what Moses begins to realize. You see, their bigger issue is, it comes up in verse 7. Is God with us? Is God really, actually with us? It's interesting. They had received the promise. You go back into earlier parts of Exodus, where God picks up on his promise to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and he's going to take them to a land of Canaan, land flowing with milk and honey. And it happens several times in Exodus. So they'd got the promise. They'd got the promise, but they're yet to have the fulfillment of it. But there's a question that hangs over that. They have the promise, but do they believe it? And here's the rub of the issue. This is all about the issue of faith. They had received a promise of God, but did they believe God? Really, really deep down. See, the desert place is a place where trust has to be renewed every day. It has to be renewed every day, over and over again. And it's a place of learning, if only they will have eyes to see it. And I guess that's the encouragement for us, isn't it? If only we can have eyes to see. See the opportunities that are there before us to learn of God, to learn from God, to put our trust in him, to renew our trust in him, and to have that faith rewarded each and every day. Well, God in his grace and his mercy leads them to a rock in their faithlessness, and he gets Moses to strike the rock, and the water flows. Moses takes the elders of the community there with him. It's a kind of testimony that they too might be the ones who encourage the people onto faith. When we were looking at this at Sunday, someone came up to me after and said, I would have approached that story differently. I said, oh yeah, how would you have approached it? What was the point for you? And they said, well, if you want to get the best out of your leaders, threaten to stone them. I thought it was quite a unique angle and very funny. But there is a point where God does involve the leaders of the community, because they need to take responsibility in encouraging the people on to faith, in grabbing hold of the dynamics of the desert place, that faith might grow, be renewed, and the testimony of God's faithfulness and that he can be trusted just grows and grows and grows. So I don't know where that's left you, what questions it has raised for you, where God might have prompted you. But be open to his prompt, don't be frightened of it. He has your good at heart. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and may God bless you richly. Amen.